Welcome to Codex, History of Video Games. My name's Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week we continue our Gauntlet talk. Mike's going to take us through some more Gauntlet games. There's a whole bunch of them. There's so many more Gauntlet games than I realized.
There are a lot more Gauntlet games than I realized, too, but we're back in the Gauntlet saddle again. We're going to do it, and this time we're going to be talking specifically about the 3D classics from, I think, your and I childhood, you know?
Yeah.
Our childhood. These are what we played when we were kids in the arcade, when you still went to arcades. So the first game we're going to talk about is Gauntlet Legends, and this was released in arcades everywhere in 1998 and is made by Atari, and this is the first truly 3D Gauntlet game. We had that one last time I talked about Gauntlet, where it was like isometric 3D, but it was really just like 2D sprites and shadows to make it look more 3D. This is really... We're talking polygons, baby. Who doesn't love a good polygon?
I played this one on PlayStation. It's the only Gauntlet game that I am familiar with at all. Is Gauntlet
It's a
Legends.
good one. It's not a bad one to be familiar with. This is a good game. It actually came with the biggest like gameplay upgrade of this whole game is leveling. You can actually level your character as you go along in between each level.
Well, that's not in other Gauntlet games?
No. Every Gauntlet game prior to this did not have any sort of leveling feature.
Wow.
Yeah, so you leveled up and you would improve one of 4 different stats. Those stats are strength, speed, armor, magic. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Strength makes your attack stronger. Speed makes you like move faster, but also you attack faster. Armor makes it so you don't take as much damage. And magic makes it so your range attacks and then like magic potion attacks do more damage. The cool thing about this though is like with like you increase in level and you can actually purchase stuff for leveling as well. Like you don't just get it, you can actually buy it. So if you're able to like get a bunch of gold, you can level up your character really quick, which is kind of neat.
Nice.
These are cool too, these games, because this starts a trend of secret characters.
Oh yeah, I love getting the secret characters.
Yeah, so the stock fantasy characters from the original Gauntlet return in Legends, the classics, the warrior, the wizard, the archer, and the Valkyrie, but then they each have like an alternative version of themselves. For example, you can, if you're the warrior, you can also be Minotaur, wizard has the jackal, archer has the tigress, and Valkyrie has the falconess. And then, this is also big too, they actually had a save system for this game as well.
Even in the arcade? Oh.
Even in the arcade, and they used passwords. Remember password saves?
I remember passwords. That'd be the only way to do it in the arcade, right?
Yeah, and they were the worst, as I recall. Like, because you'd always like write it on a piece of paper, and then you forget it. It would be like, is that an O or a 0? I can't tell.
Yeah.
And then you get real frustrated. But so characters had a maximum progress of level 99 and a maximum of their attributes to 999, and people did it. Like, people played this game enough. They leveled their characters up like that. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
But the big other thing about this game too, the big add-on is they added an extra button. That's right, you got 3 buttons now. You have fire, magic, and the brand new turbo button. Who doesn't love a good turbo button?
I love a good turbo button.
And if you hit these buttons in different combinations, they did different things. So an example that I read on Patman QC's video, who I used pretty much exclusively for this whole episode. I used that in Wikipedia because I always just look at Wikipedia to get like dates and stuff. But Patman QC is making some great YouTube videos,
lots of Gauntlet content
about like history of arcade games, like older arcade games. Like he has one on Joust and all sorts of stuff. Patman QC, check him out on YouTube. But so they actually says out there that you actually, if you hit the fire and magic button at the same time, it throws a potion like in the old Gauntlet games, and you can throw the potion like over the walls, so you can kill enemies before you get to them, which is kind of handy.
That's pretty cool.
Because it's just like old Gauntlet, too. I mean, you're fighting hordes of bad guys, and then you want to kill their generator they come out of, and then you just move on to the next area, in the level. There's also a lot of power-ups on the map, specifically the hourglass. I'm combining words. That's what I'm doing today.
The power glass.
The power glass. The hourglass stops everything on the screen except for you. The 3-way shot is pretty self-explanatory. It makes it so your shot goes out in 3 ways, kind of like 3 discs in Ricochet. No big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But also, the enemy shrinker does exactly what you think it does. Shrinks enemies, Really, really on the nose, that name, I think. But this game actually came out on PS1, as you played it, Tyler, N64, and Sega Dreamcast. The N64 port was first. It came out on August 31st, 1999, while the PS1 and Dreamcast versions came out in the year 2000. But yeah, it's actually, from what I understand, it's a pretty good port, and this is kind of going to go everywhere with all of these console versions of the game, the one major change is your health does not tick down by 1 on the console versions because they're not trying to get more quarters out of you. So that's like to be understood between everything I talk about. But last 2 games we're talking about, not arcade games. Whoa.
It looks like the Gauntlet Legends got decently good reviews from most places, except GameSpot.com. Just like 4 out of 10 across the board on N64, Dreamcast, and PlayStation. They did not like this game.
Yeah, it was like I wrote mixed reviews because I think people just weren't really impressed by it. And that's kind of an overarching theme of this episode you're going to notice is people are like, hey, it's just more Gauntlet, but they're not impressed by it. Arcade sales-wise, though, this did do really well. Like in Japan, the Game Machine magazine, I guess, or they listed Gauntlet Legends on their March 1st, 1999 issue as being the 6th most successful dedicated arcade game of the year. So, hey, you know what? That means it's pretty good, I think. Making that money. And really, that's what makes more levels and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, looking back on this game, though, like on a personal level, I remember playing the mountain level a lot, mostly because it was the first level and I never made it that far. But in arcades, like Gauntlet Legends was always the one that I would go to, especially with friends. It's fun with friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually really now want to get an N64 version of this game. And there is a used game store near my house that if anyone would have it, it would be them. So I'm going to look into it.
All right. Let us know how it goes.
I will. I mean, there's been a lot of talk on the Discord about finding older games, which I love. I love that Discord talk. You guys should join us on there.
Yeah.
FedEx History Podcast Discord. Look at the link in my pinned tweet on my Twitter profile, and you can join the Discord. But it's hard to find stuff right now because of quarantine. Like, you have to shop online, which kind of takes all the fun out of it for me, honestly. I like
it might be fun to try to get the arcade game version working on like an emulator. We could play multiplayer.
Ooh, I would be a big fan of that.
We can look into that, see if it's possible.
I have some talking points at the end of this episode, too, that are not written down, but I need to remember to say about, like, older ways you can play the game too, so I'll get to that. But I'm sure there's emulators. So the next game we're talking about is the one that I remember most, and this is Gauntlet Dark Legacy. And this game is very interesting because I remembered it as being a standalone game, and it is definitely and I say that like in all caps, this is definitely an expansion of Gauntlet Legends. It's actually Gauntlet Legends with like 4 or 5 levels added on and some new items and some new features. And I remember seeing this like in the arcade all the time and thinking it was completely different than Gauntlet Legends. So I'm going to say it's its own game. I know I'm wrong,
yeah. It
but
looks
I'm just
like it's completely different just from looking at the picture of it. But
yeah, totally.
Cool.
But Gauntlet Dark Legacy came out in the arcade in the year 2000, so it's only 1 year after the release, or 2 years after the release of Gauntlet Legends, and it was once again developed by Midway Games. The first thing that happens in Dark Legacy is they really overhaul the plot from Legends. They actually give it way more. I mentioned this. Actually, I just said that wrong. Midway Games took over Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Atari did the first Gauntlet Legends.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that, everybody.
So we're changing companies now.
They're changing companies. But I have the text to the opening cinematic, and I'm now going to read it in my best fantasy narrator voice for you, Tyler. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. In an ancient time, the evil mage Garm's interesting name choice, using the power of the rune stones, released an evil upon the land. This demon, Scorn, broke free of Garm's control, crushing him and imprisoning his soul in the underworld. Scorn then released his minions upon the land and scattered rune stones across the 8 realms so that they might never be assembled and used against him. No one has dared to try. Until now. Is that pretty good?
That was really good.
Are you into it? Thank you.
You got me into this. I really want to play this game now.
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, the game is just what they just said. So you have 8 different realms that you travel across, and each realm has a gem, rune stone you got to get and defeat the boss. And then you defeat the bosses in the worlds, and then after that, you the game is kind of extended to have these 4 more levels where you go deeper and deeper and subsequently murder more and more things in each of the new realms, with the final boss battle taking place in the last realm. So all 4 leveling attributes are back. Strength, magic, what was it? Speed, and then what was the other one? Strength, magic, speed, armor. Strength, magic, speed, armor. They're all back in this one. They didn't really change the leveling system that much. The big difference though now is each damage type. So like magic, like the warrior class. I guess I should. Each class has a variant that's just there. So it's like not a secret character. Like from the beginning, you can either be a warrior or a dwarf. They're like the same type of class. So the starting characters are wizard, Valkyrie, warrior, archer, sorceress, knight, dwarf, and jester.
Whoa.
And those all unlock into their secret versions, which are jackal, medusa, falconess, unicorn, minotaur, ogre, tigress, and hyena, respectively.
Wow,
So,
unicorn.
yeah, I know. I want to be a beautiful unicorn. That's what I want to be in a game. But the characters can now do a slow, strong attack or a quick, weak attack. So it actually kind of changes things up with those button combos I talked about, because now you have more variables to add to it if you hold the button down or if you tap real quick, all that stuff. Blocking, charging, and strafing are also introduced as just character movement abilities that you have as well. So this makes the game a little bit more again, it's definitely an expansion. It just adds variation to the old game and then adds those levels. The store was expanded too. There's way more to purchase with gold between levels and way more items to use. But the ports for this game are where it gets interesting. The game was ported to PS2, Xbox, and then GameCube. And there was also a Game Boy Advanced port of this game. And what's funny is every port of this game has good to mixed reviews again, except for the Game Boy Advance version, which has between 30 to 40%. It was real bad, apparently.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they could really pull off what they're going for with this on a Game Boy Advanced. I just looking back on it, because the Game Boy Advance I think still only had 2 buttons.
Yeah,
an
you
A
had the
button
L
and
and
B
R
button.
buttons. Yeah, the L and R buttons.
Oh,
But
I guess that's true.
You're still you're working with the limited buttons for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely limited. But again, this had this whole if Gauntlet ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, which I think is why the game just kind of was hey, it's more Gauntlet. Ooh, that's great. There was, interestingly enough, a tie-in novel with this. There was a book series that was going to come out. Only book 1 came out. That's called Paths of Evil by Richard C. White. There was a sequel planned, but that was never released because they lost the licensing, and then the producer went out of business. So the person producing the book
never going to get closure.
Yeah, I know. They just read Path of Evil and they're like, oh no, I can't get more. So check out Paths of Evil by Richard C. White if you want to get some sweet Gauntlet lore in your life. But yeah, that's kind of Gauntlet Dark Legacy and Gauntlet Legends. This episode's going to be kind of sparse, but truthfully, there's not a lot to say about these. I couldn't really find a lot about the development history. It's really just about new features. But the next one is where it gets a little bit more interesting, because we are leaving the arcade. That's right, everyone. Put your quarters away. It's console time. The next game is called Gauntlet 7 Sorrows, and this was only available on PlayStation 2 and Xbox. And I say Xbox in general because I think the Xbox and the Xbox 360 had this game. But this is on almost complete reboot of the cities. And I say almost because for a reason in a second. But you have just the 4 original classes to choose from: the wizard, the elf, the warrior, and the Valkyrie. There's no unlockable hidden characters, and there is no character appearance customization at all. There's no alternative skins like before.
Dang.
There is no longer a central hub world where you go back to, like in the Gauntlet Dark Legacy and Gauntlet Legends. This is just straight up hack and slash, go through the world, kill everything. And there's upgrading is just done at the end of each realm you're in. You can't access it from the menu. There is no shop in the game. It's pretty bare bones.
Oh, I was gonna say, this game does not sound great compared to Dark Legacy.
Well, here's the thing about it. Yeah, you purchase the skills and you can get combos for your characters, which is kind of cool. So you can kind of unlock more different attacks and stuff like that. But this is really just a repetitive hack and slash game. The only time you're not hacking and or slashing is when you're still doing super minimal puzzles. I'm talking hey, you pushed the wall. Now you just solved my wall pushing puzzle. Congrats. That's kind of
you did
the
it.
extent of it. Yeah, you solved my wall puzzle. But this is the first Gauntlet game, though, most notably, to support online co-op multiplayer. Gauntlet's in the future now. Yeah. But this plot, the other thing about the game, the only other redeeming quality of the game is the plot of this game actually sounds like they put some time and thought into it. So I don't have a fun, cool like splash thing to read like I did just before with my sweet fantasy voice. But essentially, I'm going to sum it up here. You're one of 4 immortal heroes. I like kind of throwing back to the old Gauntlet games, like this was the past, now you're in the future, who served an emperor a long time ago. That emperor, by the way, is named, I think it's Summon, is the name of the emperor, but it's spelled all weird. It's like Sumun. And they're like a character in the old game. I think it's kind of nodding to that. But the emperor is tricked by his advisors into crucifying and imprisoning you at the bottom of the world.
Oh, dang it. I hate when I get tricked into crucifying people at the bottom of the world.
It's the worst. So now that but then the emperor like is gone. After all his mistakes, he's just gone. But thanks to his evil 6 advisors. But in his final act before he dies is he frees you so you can defeat his evil advisors and fix the 6 other great sorrows done by the emperor and them. And conveniently enough, there are 6 sorrows and 6 advisors that you have to kill. The 7th sorrow is you. You're the 7th sorrow. Isn't that deep?
Wow.
So, this also explains why you have to earn your powers back, too, because you were, like, imprisoned in the tree and you lost them over time. Yay, plot devices. This is a lot like an Arkham Asylum, where you, like, crash and you have none of your equipment. So, there you go.
Like Metroid, where, every time Samus crashes her ship, she just loses every single power she's ever had.
Yeah, it's like, it's like every other video game, this game. Trying to find a way to take away your powers and make you not as cool. So here's a fun little development tidbit about this game, though. John Romero, that John Romero.
id Software's John Romero?
Yeah.
Of Daikatana fame?
Mm-hmm. And Josh Sawyer were originally the ones, like, at Midway San Diego working on getting Gauntlet back. They wanted to bring Gauntlet back and make it what they always thought it could be. And then in the middle of Gauntlet's development, Romero and Sawyer left Midway Games before it could be finished. So I think that kind of says a lot about where this game stands and how it kind of feels like it's half done. I mean, it's like, because you and I were talking before, like there's not a lot of features in this game. It's very bare bones. But a cool little fun fact about it is Romero and Sawyer actually made characters for the game named Lancer and Tragedian, but they never saw the light of day. Like they had concept characters made and they never came out. But another fun little tidbit about this game, as a way to nod it to the old arcade, like the original arcade game, the audio used in the original arcade game is remastered and put into this game. Just cool. So like some older fans have some warm fuzzy feelings, which I think is pretty neat.
That's neat.
But yeah, as I said, this game has like super mixed reviews though, because it's just super repetitive. There's just not a lot going on. And while the story's kind of cool, it just didn't really get... It's just more Gauntlet, and it's just not doing anything innovative or new. It got anywhere between 50% to 70%, or a 5 to 7 if they're going out of 10 on like game review websites. But I feel like this Gauntlet really could have been something if those two didn't leave the studio halfway through. It just didn't, like, the pieces were there, they just didn't fall into place. So, and I actually never even heard of this game until I did this. I didn't even know there was a game.
I've never heard of this one either.
Called Gauntlet 7 Sorrows. I had no clue. But we are now at the final, again, this episode's quick, everyone, I'm so sorry, final Gauntlet game that came out most recently in 2014 and 2015, and this is Gauntlet, and then in 2015, Gauntlet Slayer Edition. So, Gauntlet was the version released on Steam only on September 23rd, 2014, and the Slayer Edition version of the game was released on Steam and PS4 on August 11th, 2015. And this is really trying to take Gauntlet back to its roots. It's top-down 3D. It looks a lot like Diablo. The only thing that stood out to me is the camera is super far back. Like, you're really tiny. Like, if they just zoomed it in like 20% more, which is funny because I saw it on Patman QC's video. I saw that, and then he immediately said, yeah, the camera's kind of far out from what I thought. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're all on the same page here. But the cool thing is, as an homage to like the old Gauntlet, it is like you're fighting hordes of enemies you need to kill. There are secret rooms that you can find, and it is a straight up dungeon crawler like it was meant to be in the original one.
It looks cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool. And it's on Steam only for like $20. So if you're a Gauntlet fan, you should definitely check this out. But you get The original characters again, the original 4. So Thor the Warrior, Thyra the Valkyrie, Merlin the Wizard, and Questor the Elf. They brought their names back. And just like the original game, only one person can play one character. You can't have 2 Merlins, okay? You can only be
There's
one.
only one Merlin.
Yeah, you got to fight over who you're going to be with your friends. But now you kind of upgrade your characters in a more traditional way. So you actually upgrade your stats, but you also upgrade your weapons and spells. So it's like your equipment goes up and everything. It's got a little bit more leveling stuff to it. The dungeons that you're in are actually partially like defined and partially procedurally generated, which is neat.
So there's a little bit of replay value there.
Yeah, you're going to see something bad about that in a second. Yeah, essentially, I'll just skip that part. Essentially, it was super repetitive, this game. Like, critics, they gave it, like, more positive press than Seven Sorrows, but they were just really like, there's a lot of problems. Like, it's super repetitive as far as the level design goes. Like, everything just looks the same, which is funny because you and I have been playing the original Halo and are just realizing how much of a copy-paste job that game is.
A lot of those levels are copy paste, especially the library.
Oh, the library, or a lot of the time it's like you're just going backwards in the levels you did 9. Like the Pillar of Autumn and the Maw, or the Maw is just the Pillar of Autumn backwards, straight up.
Yep.
It's crazy, minus the Warthog part. But yeah, this game had that problem. There also were a lot of issues with the UI just not being really convenient, like the menus not being great. And so, from what it sounds like, the Gauntlet is a game that hinges on you wanting to play it over and over and again with your friends, and that just wasn't there with this Gauntlet reboot. So I will say, if you're a fan of Gauntlet, though, and you want to get some Gauntlet in your life, it's only $20. Like I said before, I think that's worth it. If you're a big fan of Gauntlet, this is the closest you can get to a modern version of the OG 80s arcade Gauntlet, okay? There really isn't much else to say about the Gauntlet. This might be like one of their shortest episodes ever, like 20-something minutes, but we'll have emails and stuff too. But it's just like, to me, it seems like where Gauntlet's at right now is it's going to be in limbo for a while, and you got to hope that when they do bring it back, they do it right. And I think the way you do it right is you add a bunch of new level designs. It's not always the same, like, dark dungeon stuff. And you have to have much more character customization stuff. This game is like thriving on like building a character in a certain way. Because I think that's where Diablo was so great, is because it had so much loot and you could build a character in so many different ways. And it sounds like Gauntlet just didn't have that, and it got left behind.
Yeah,
I think I like the monster. Like, I really like the idea of the monsters don't stop spawning until you kill their monster generator. I think that's a cool idea, and that's in every single one of the games, because it kind of gives them some strategy to it, you know? And you could also like farm monsters if you need to, you know? But it's just kind of like, this game is just in a standstill right now. And that was 2014 when that Gauntlet came out, 2015 technically for the Slayer Edition thing on PS4. And now if you buy it, it's Slayer Edition, either one. They only sell Slayer Edition on Steam. And I'd be surprised if anyone plays that game on PS4 at this point in 2020. Yeah, I hope we can get another Gauntlet game in like a year or two, you know, and people figure it out, because it is like very different. I mean, it really is that Dandy game that we talked about before, but it's really interesting how these old arcade games, like, I want to see a resurgence, you know, because they can't all be Jaybirds. We want them to.
That's right.
They can't all be Jaybirds. So the last thing I will say on a personal note is researching this was really fun, though, because of Patman QC's videos. And you really should check out his History of Gauntlet video. So he kind of goes into how you can play older Gauntlet games now at the end of his video. Because there was at a time where the original Gauntlet was on Xbox 360's arcade store. And then at 2010, it got pulled down. So I think you got to emulate is what you got to do now. Unless you get that Midway box that I mentioned before. But that's kind of, or if you have a Sega Genesis with Gauntlet 4, because that is apparently the best way to play the old Gauntlet. So, I just want to give a shout out to Patman QC, because that video is excellent, and he does way more videos on all sorts of arcade games, and I feel like we're definitely going to use his videos again sometime in the future when we do more arcade stuff. But yeah, that's kind of it for Gauntlet. Kind of, I feel like it's kind of a sad ending, but hopeful, you know, that the new game comes out. That's what I
I'm
hope.
sure someone will pick up the license and do something with it, you know?
Yeah, or like some sort of like indie studio makes like a fan version that's a big nod to this game. You know, I could see that being a thing too, because I think the co-op gameplay is still like something that people love, like a couch co-op kind of thing where you're all four on the same couch playing it. And I'm sure there are other versions of this game out now that do that. In fact, if you know a game that's like Gauntlet that's 4-player co-op that you want to email us, codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. But other than that, Tyler, what you been playing?
Well, most of my gaming time has been playing Halo with you. We finished Reach. We finished Combat Evolved. And now we're on to Halo 2, it
looks so much better.
Redone version. Yeah, even the classic mode, and it looks way better than classic mode of the original Halo, but also the like remade, higher, awesome visuals look way better in Halo 2 than they did for Halo 1 as well. So it's definitely the best way to play. Master Chief Collection on PC is very fun. People have a lot of problems with it. I haven't had as many problems. I guess I did have to reinstall it a few weeks ago, but
man, I mean, we just mentioned it before, but I am still blown away how I don't remember Halo 1 being in the copy-paste job that it is.
Yeah, that
was
really
my favorite
surprised
Halo.
me too.
Oh, man. Now I'm like, I see why Halo 2 is everyone's favorite. I just didn't even notice that when I was playing through it until when I was playing with you, and we were like, this is just that level we did 3 times ago backwards.
Yeah. But other than Halo, I've been spending a lot of time reading the Masters of Doom book. Which is
next. I'm super excited for that next week.
I think we're going to talk a bit about that next week. So
we're doing another book club, everybody.
I love book clubs.
I do too, and I kind of miss the days where we were doing the ultimate history of video games. You know,
Yeah.
one because it was kind of nice always having a source there to be like, okay, this is what they said, versus like doing online research where there's a lot of times where I say a date and I'm like, I don't know if that's a real date or not. You know, but I am super stoked to get into that book, and we're going to do it together. We're going to do it just like old times, where you and I are working on the notes together. And I think we're probably going to do like the first 2 or 3 chapters next week with that. So it'll be great.
Yeah, I think that about covers everything I've been playing. I fired up my Xbox 360, and I've just been kind of like dipping in and out of a ton of games because I just have a bunch of Xbox 360 games, but nothing substantial that I've like committed to or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, other than Halo with you, I've pretty much fallen off Destiny again. Like, we beat the dungeon, and it's been kind of just like, man, I don't really want to go for all this chasing stuff. And then I had a bunch of games I was going to play now, you know, because my girlfriend's out of town, you know, time to play some games. And honestly, life has gotten in the way and a bunch of other stuff, so I haven't really had time to play the games I really wanted to. Like Firewatch, for example, was on my list, and I haven't been able to even touch it. I've been busy with other stuff. But I'm hoping to get into more of that this week. And it's been really fun playing Halo games with you. Like, I didn't realize how much of a fun trip down memory lane this would be.
Yeah, I've been having a good time playing those too. So we'll keep doing that this week probably, and I'll find something. I've got this week off, so I will probably find some stuff to play to commit to. Maybe I'll keep going on Mass Effect. I'm like getting close to the end of that one.
Oh man, and we also got to talk about Discord. Like, we got to play some games in there with those folks too. We could do that.
Yeah,
I'm sure soon. I like the idea of playing either Left 4 Dead or Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, because you and I are both big Left 4 Dead fans. So.
Oh yeah, I love Left 4 Dead.
But we got to play Left 4 Dead 2, right? Because Left 4 Dead 1 is inside Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, all the levels from Left 4 Dead 1 are in Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, so we're just going to play that one. But cool, we got one email. You want to read it?
Yeah, this one's from Zach. He says, "Hey, Mike and Tyler, this is Zach from Minnesota. Love the podcast, 5 out of 5. I've been an avid listener since about last March, and this has been my go-to podcast since quarantine started. Just finished catching up on every episode yesterday and want to say you guys gave me the feeling like when you finish one of your favorite TV series and you're just left there satisfied but empty, what am I going to listen to now? Recommendations for future episodes would be History of RTS games. We've been getting a lot of that one. Or series like Command & Conquer or StarCraft. Another would be a history of Blizzard. Lastly, question for you guys. Tyler, I know you play games with your significant other, and my fiance is, I think, finally starting to see video games as an actual means of storytelling. What game series would you recommend playing through easy or storytelling mode with another person watching? I've recommended some things, but sometimes a third-party recommendation can make all the difference. One of her best friends said it best. Sometimes to get the loan, you need a co-signer. Thanks for everything. Catch you later, Zach.
That's funny. That's a good question, too, because, I've been trying to get my girlfriend more into playing games. Animal Crossing worked for us really well. That's fun to play as a team.
Yeah.
You know?
I find, I mean, depending on what your preferences are for like types of stories, the Last of Us series on easier difficulties is a fantastic storyline. It's pretty dark and gruesome, so I don't know what you and your fiance are into, but it gets pretty heavy. But that's a good one. Speaking of Heavy Rain, all of the Quantic Dream games, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. Those are all good choices.
I watched Kelly play Detroit with you. We watched her play that together. That's a great game.
Yeah, Detroit is really, really cool.
It was like watching a 12-hour movie with friends. That's what it felt like. It's good.
Also, Until Dawn is a really great, it's not Quantic Dream, but it's like kind of the same style thing if you have
that's the horror
PS4.
one we played, right?
Yeah, it's a horror one.
That was so scary, though.
It's very scary. It's cool.
Man.
It's got Rami Malek and Hayden Panettiere in it, and probably some other famous people, too, that I can't remember off the top of my head.
My girlfriend played Firewatch, and that would be a good one to watch with somebody. I didn't watch it because I wanted to play it separately, selfishly, but that's a really good one, and it's only about 6 hours long. Firewatch. There's a lot of cool, like also I guess Telltale games would be good to watch.
Yeah, those probably be good.
Telltale games are fun, like The Wolf Among Us and stuff like that. Those are my recommendations anyway. But yeah, we should really get into some RTS stuff. You know, that's like.
I just don't play a lot of RTS games.
Yeah,
I don't have the nostalgia as much.
I used to be really into it. Like I would play a lot of StarCraft, and then I would play a lot of World of Warcraft 3. Big fan of just like the RTS version of that, you know? But I feel like I kind of fell off RTS games when I got really into first-person shooters in like high school and Halo, essentially. Halo ruined RTS games for me. But they're super fun, and I'm a big fan of them. I just Civilization is one I play recently.
I love Civilization.
Yeah, so we can talk about those. That's great. Yeah, we'll put that on the old list there, Zach. Thanks for emailing us. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's pretty much. It's kind of a shorter episode today, but we're going to really get into it next week with the new book going in. And let us know if you like the book stuff too. Like it's called Masters of Doom. It came out in 2003. We're going to do probably the first 3 chapters if you want to like follow along. But yeah, we're kind of going to do that book thing, I think, for like 2 or 3 weeks until we get through it. I don't think it's a very long book, right? We can get through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think I think Kindle estimates it at like 5 or 6 hours of reading. So. Oh
yeah, that's not that bad at all. So we'll get through that, but it'll be a fun time going back to our old roots of book learning. So with that, on Twitter, you can follow Tyler Twitter at SneakerElf, ELPH. You can follow me on Twitter at Mecoletta, MECOLETTA, and the Discord link is on the pin to my profile if you want to follow along there. We have fun conversations in there about how to find video games. People share their collections, and then I put a picture of Delilah, the world's worst podcast producer, so you could see her there looking angry and derpy. But other than that, I think that's it for today.
All right.
So you want to say bye to everybody, Tyler?
Yeah, goodbye, everybody.